Hello, friends. Oh, it's a scorcher today.
It is summer taking back the day or days.
Yeah.
Yes. So we look dewy and fresh. That's one way to put it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a day to make your hair curl.
Yours does get very curly,
Yes.
yeah.
And like
Because when I
that.
met you, it's almost stick straight
Yep. Very
and
straight hair.
very, very blonde.
Yeah, I was a super blondie. Well, maybe not super, super, but anyway. Having kids
Things change.
changes things. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of things change.
So we wanted to have a fun message today based off of a request.
Yes. The person that requested, we always like to ask permission. I just haven't had a chance to ask yet. So I won't use names or anything, but the basic idea was that this person was working in an organization, enjoying the work, but was feeling kind of bound by the rules as far as interactions with the students. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it was, I don't exactly remember specifically if it was students or just leading a group of people.
Yeah.
But the point remains that when we start to go on a spiritual path, we, I think, want to expand ourselves and we want to question things. And it can be really challenging to be almost sort of forced into the box, the structure of what our mundane modern world decides should be. There are a lot of rules, a lot of regulations that just don't make sense, or maybe make sense as a whole, but for you particularly, they don't hold any value. And so it becomes difficult to, I think, be in a leadership position or even sometimes get anything done or be real people because you have to deal with all of the cultural goo.
When I think of the unfolding of the world, I sometimes think Divine Mother is creating nature, becoming nature. And nature has this way of just operating without a rule book, right? Now, we humans, of course, might pause it and say, okay, yes, there's these laws of nature and such. But the squirrel and the tree, they probably, aren't saying, okay, well, here's the rule, and should I do this or not? But then we humans,
who are also part of Divine Mother's creation.
Oh, yes. But in us, I think she also gives this joke ability, or this joke.
The joke's on us, is that it?
An ability to very much conceptualize our world. And in that conceptualization, we humans have come to love creating structures. Arguably, being animals like any other, we would be able to function naturally. That's a whole other conversation.
Yes. Different message, different day.
But we love our structures. And so we have governments and laws and schools and all kinds of bureaucracy in order to, control our behavior.
I mean, I think initially it probably started as a communication tool in some ways. If I think about the Hobby Horse Championships that we just had 2 weekends ago, I'm getting a lot of people saying, we want to host our own. Do you have rules or guidelines that we can use? Because they don't know anything about it. And so in a way, it's more like a game, probably. And I think about the Becoming Dungeon Master, and I think about Divine Mother as the storyteller. And so it's this game, and there's all sorts of games in life, and games have rules, or at least sets of guidelines so that we can all enjoy playing them. So in order for hobby horsers to enjoy getting together, they all kind of want to know what they should be looking for. And that allows them to foster a spirit of fun. So I think perhaps that's maybe the good-natured place that it came from. I mean, you could look at the flip side and say that human beings have some negative qualities. But again, then we're getting down the road into governing and things like that. I think initially structure was there to help life be a little bit easier.
I love that you brought up that we call it gamification.
Yeah.
And that's a concept that, we humans again, we could replace structure with gamification.
Mm-hmm.
As Alan Watts would probably tell us, oh, the problem is then we forgot we were playing a game.
Exactly.
We forgot that we made the rules.
Yes.
And then we allow ourselves to be suffering under the rules, even when they don't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
So imagine, to kind of take this person's request and bring it home. Let's just use a similar example, that we're teaching in an outdoor school to a group of teens, and we want to relate to them on a wholehearted level.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this group is going to be composed of people with different learning styles, with different desire to be there or not be there, all kinds of different personalities. And we want to be meeting them there, but because of the rule structure, we're kind of stuck in a place where if action A happens from one of the teens, then action B must be laid out on the table by me. And that can maybe, for instance, mean somebody being excluded from the group and kicked out when, with some time, some attention, some connection, something special could have happened there.
That makes me think of an entire different message that I want to have. But, and that's just about allowing people the time to change and teaching them the skills they need in order to be able to move differently in the world. Because you're right, the people who need that the most are often the ones that, because of our structures, are sent to jail, are, put into this, okay, you have this mental disorder. They're put into a structure that distances them. And what they really need is that time. Yeah. And so our structures can make it tricky. So what do we do about that? How do we live from a place where, okay, I'm hanging out on this spiritual quest, my life is about more than just getting by, and yet now I have to deal with I think of it as the mundane world, kind of dry, red tapey, bureaucratic, that's like preventing me from doing what I feel is necessary.
So we were talking about this morning, and then based on what you were just saying here, it makes me think that a lot of this could be solved through gamification.
Okay.
In other words, through acknowledging the game of the rules there. So
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think you probably can say it better than me.
So this is when I was talking about, because there's all sorts of things you can do within the structure, but really what we're asking ourselves to do is to step out of the mental structure. Hi, Brett. And so I think that what I was saying was that when I take it to a spiritual level, I'm going, Divine Mother is creating all of this, including the rules that I think are stupid and silly, and not directly necessarily. But if I think of her as the storyteller, and I am giving over, I'm on a ship, she's guiding the ship, or she's the storyteller. She is telling this story of this game that I'm in. I can step into my role as my character. But if I'm not taking it seriously, I can decide to be different personas where I am. And I can also see all of those rules as kind of, okay, well, this is the set of parameters that I'm going to operate in. And how can I get creative? How does my character, who's in this story that's being told, I can change my mind. I can maybe try to change the rules. Mm-hmm. And I can almost step out of that. So, for example, with meeting this group of teens, I might sit down with them and say, hey guys, I know I'm here in this role, and I know you're all here, and some of you may want to be here and some of you may not. And we've got this set of rules that maybe I agree with some, maybe I don't, but I agreed to be here with you with them. And so let's just chat a little bit. Let's say, hey, if we can all just agree on those rules, we can do some cool stuff. But if we spend the whole time just, having to deal with these ruly things, it's not going to be the greatest. And I'm here because I want to take you and have some fun in nature. And, you can start to, in a weird way, slide open the mask of all of that we take as real.
Taller.
It's like in the Hindu philosophy, there's Maya, which is the illusion, and we take it so real. But there's also Leela, which is playfulness, which is the sport. And so we're saying take the Maya and play with it. Get into the Leela. Get into the I'm playing in the world. And so when you are in a group, you could even be in a business setting. You could be in a suit and tie, and you could be for a second, take the mask off and go, hey, maybe this doesn't seem appropriate, but I want to address this as a human being. And when you start to show, we just talked about vulnerability, when you show that vulnerable side of you that says, look, I'm real and I see you're real and I see we're all playing this game together. How do we want to do it? I think people start to, I'm going to let you talk in 1 second.
No.
It makes me think of, I don't know if you've ever been in a group scenario where everybody's kind of like uncomfortable. Maybe you're supposed to be a certain way and everybody's kind of posing. Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. And then you get the one person who comes in and is like, hey, people, you know what? I don't know why we're doing this. This is silly. Hey, does anybody feel like it's kind of stuffy in here? Like maybe let's go outside and let's grab a soda or, lemonade, or I'm kind of healthy. So it'd be like tea. And then, and that's all just like, be real people. Maybe they don't say it that way, and then you notice the whole group shifts. And everyone in the group's like, oh, and you can see this collective relief, this sigh. And then all of a sudden people start having fun. It's the icebreaker. But what you need is that person to go, hey guys, we're all just playing this game. So let's acknowledge we are, and then let's do something more fun.
So
or maybe not fun. Maybe it's real. Maybe you're,
yeah.
And maybe you're in a group that's talking about tough stuff, and you decide to be the one that says, okay, I'm going to go first. I'm going to share, and I'm going to share it for real. Whatever.
So what you're talking about is when these structures are in place and we've forgotten that they're a game,
mm-hmm.
that somebody just made up these rules, which, the rules, no matter how serious they are, the laws of any government or rules of organization, these are just some things that
somebody made up.
Humans have made up. And they change over time and shift over the centuries or years. And they feel so real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when someone steps out and acknowledges and says, okay, group, here's the structure we're under.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's all understand that this is what we're operating under. And at the moment, that's where we're stuck.
Right.
So if A happens, B has to happen. But let's not even go there, because we know those rules. We don't have to let those guide our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
So here, let's just interact as humans. If A is starting to happen, you're starting to feel like you're going to break that rule. Come up and say, oh, I feel like I'm about to cross the A line.
Right.
And I'll say, oh, thanks for letting me know. Let's help re-steer you in a different direction. You create a bond with other people when you slip through the veil,
mm-hmm.
right? On any level. This can kind of happen with money. So you're paying for something. Let's say you're paying a bunch of $100 bills for a used car.
Okay.
And you're putting it down and you're going, oh my gosh. And you just feel like, because you're taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And then you might remind me and say, Ken, isn't it funny? This happens with groceries a lot for us, right? So isn't it funny that you can just take a couple pieces of paper that have some numbers on them, and we get to take home tomatoes and lettuce and broccoli and all this wonderful stuff.
Yeah, like essentially here's some dried tree pulp with ink.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I get some real things.
It takes you out of the game for a moment, and then the important part is it creates a bond of understanding between us.
Well, and to speak to that, I think when we're talking about a group, or collectively human beings, we're a group. And I think what we want more than anything is to be seen. Like for real, seen. I'm thinking about anytime, so cell phones have really have really made this difficult because we might be standing in line and we're just on our cell phone, and the person, human being, other creature, other divine mother entity who is assisting us with getting our coffee or ringing us up, they're like not even a thing anymore. They like might as well be a robot, because I'm here doing this. All it takes is for me to not do that and smile. Say, hey, thank you, or how's your day going? Or those earrings are a really pretty color for you, or whatever it is, and actually just to look them in the eye. You don't even actually have to say anything. You just look someone in the eye and smile like, I see you, and I get that you and I are in this game together. There's this magical thing that happens. And it's so funny because it seems almost as though that's like the thing we desire the most, but the thing we also distance ourselves from. And so in the scenario of leading these teens, we could use the rules as a front so that I don't have to look at you. But really, we all just want to look at each other. We all want to be seen. We all want to be acknowledged. And when that happens is when we all...
Right in the eye. You okay?
Look at me in the eye.
It's okay. You're okay.
But yeah, oh no, I'm fine. I got my eye closed before that. That's when magic happens. That's when we can start to gamify things. That's when we can start to be a little bit more playful. And I think those moments are the really important ones that help us see there's something more going on.
I feel like as we advance in our spiritual journey and keep exploring, that can happen at the most basic level with another human being. Like, you can be in your lives, and then you'll see another person that you can almost feel it in their eyes, that they're also at that place where they're trying to recognize themselves. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you'll wink at each other and see each other as manifestations of the ultimate. And then it's that namaste, right? A more formal invocation of that. But something that then becomes really playful. Looks perfect, thank you. Something that becomes playful, where before you're kind of locked into your egos and interacting, and suddenly you can not take everything so seriously.
The seriousness is definitely, in Dune, the famous quote is fear is the mind killer, but I would really say, it could be seriousness as well. And fear is a foundation of seriousness. But I think that's where having Divine Mother comes in too, because in a way she's the ultimate, she's the everyone and everything behind it all. And so a really great thing is to look at any place there's seriousness or fear, especially around structure, and take that as an opportunity to deepen your connection with her, to go to Divine Mother and say, and I say Divine Mother, again, you pick your
wherever
thing that
you are right now.
Right, you pick your thing and say, hey, what am I learning? You're like, I wanna be a tool for you or an instrument, and maybe, in the case of the teens, maybe there is someone that needs some guidance, or maybe all they need is just to see an adult who doesn't have to take everything so seriously. But there's something there. Like, this came into you. If she's the storyteller and you're, maybe you're role playing, she's going to create some scenarios where you can learn and you can grow. So being open to that and knowing that she's on your side, and that the more that you can just open to the experience and flow into what she has, that's such a great place to be able to really progress your pursuit of closeness with her, of understanding, and deepen your spiritual practice.
Yeah. Sometimes too, I think it can allow the changing of that structure, because when we're not taking the structure so seriously, we might feel a little more courage to be able to go up to the administrators in the program and say, I understand the reasons for this structure, but if this was changed a little bit, it would allow me to interact with the students on a more heartfelt level, or to reach some that, maybe aren't being reached under this structure. And even if we can't get the other person to see that the rules are playful, because other people may take those rules very, very seriously, like they've been written in stone tablets by
Right.
God above. But it's a chance, I think, when we can see through it, to initiate those conversations. And then sometimes we can change the structure of an organization to make it a little bit more wholehearted and free.
Yeah. I think that's important to remember that, again, coming back to the beginning, we created all of this essentially when there wasn't any of this. And so why not be playful, see what works, and see if we can switch things around. And maybe, maybe it's not as big a deal as it has to seem. But in the end, it's also just a journey. So even just coming up against these things is a great place to start to ask yourself questions and to connect and ask other people questions. If there's other people that you are a part of a team with, that you teach with or are teaching or leading other groups or whatever, take it to the business level, family level, reach out to them and say, hey, how do you feel about this? How do you deal with that? And in the end, it's just about deepening all the different connections that we have.
Yeah, I think this can lead us to just looking at structures in general in our life. There's a lot more of them than we may realize. A lot of them are self-imposed. And sometimes those are good and helpful. But in general, the more we're aware of them, the more we can have fun with them. And then sometimes mush and twist them around. We're constantly doing that in our family, trying out, sitting down the four of us and creating different structures in order to try to optimize whatever it is we're trying to optimize.
I think when you stick to just a structure that has to be that way always, that is where I think you miss out on the joys. And I used to be a really controlling person. That came from me being a perfectionist, which came from me being afraid of not fitting in or disappointing people. And I think there's something about, and this is a completely different message, but about worthiness and about believing that you're worthy regardless of what you do. And so that allows some freedom. And so as soon as we can notice, hey, this is a structure I've built, like this always has to be done this way, or we must always do this every year for Thanksgiving, whatever it is, we create those structures, as you say, mostly self-imposed, and we've made rules for ourselves. So in another way, what are the places where we've made rules for ourselves that we could examine them and maybe break free, and then in that freedom find new things?
So share down in the comments anything that you're experiencing that has to do with structures and how they limit you or they set you free or how you've played with them. Here, and you're also probably on the Patreon, really love it to see people interacting with each other more, because we know each of you, I think, fairly well, and you all have so many wonderful life experiences, so much wisdom to share with each other. So share with each other, help each other out, help each other to explore, and let's just build this sense of community together and connection.
And also, if you have something that you want to get our take on, reach out and let us know. Hey, I really want you guys to talk about X, Y, or Z. Or if we've done a message and you're going, oh, but you only briefly brought up this one spot, and that's the thing I need the most. Can you talk about that again? Ask us, because this should be an ongoing dialogue, and it would be fun to see over time how we learn and grow together. So anyway, just tossing that out there.
So much love to you all.
Yeah, stay cool. Stay dewy.
Talk with you in the comments.
Mwah.